Two quick things before we get in the review. This is a review, so all footage used is completely fair use, and I have every right to do so. Also, unfortunately, I called the main character the way I pronounced her name growing up as a kid, Nimue, not Nimue, which is the way it's said in the show and in the authorian legend. So yes, feel free to point out in the comments section that I said the main character's name wrong because I kept saying it the way I said it when I was a child. This is fair use. I swear to God, if I get a claim on this video, I will burn the world down. Cursed, brought to you by Netflix. I originally planned on watching the entire season and doing a comprehensive review because I was fairly excited for this. I liked the idea of having this retold Arthurian tale from the perspective of Nimue and enjoying her side of things. That was exciting to me. Unfortunately, that cool concept has resulted in reviews already on this level. And here's a fun fact, that's early in the review process. And a lot of the times for shows like these, studios will try and have a bunch of positive reviews get pumped out to try and lift up the rating. So I expect to see this only go downward from here, but I'm not going to force myself to sit through this entire first season. Instead, I'm going to do a rant review of episode 1 and didn't just kind of take this off my plate because I have a lot of better things to spend my time with, and this will not be one of them. But if you want to avoid spoilers for episode 1, don't watch this video because I'm going to talk about it in detail, but I don't recommend you watch it because I think it would be a big waste of your time. Let's go ahead and talk about Cursed, Season 1, Episode 1, the only episode I will ever watch. First, we cut to an opening of a generic text crawl fantasy thing that's just giving us backstory about sorceresses and swords and chosen ones. It reads like any AI was trying to just fill in fantasy tropes. It's very, it's that. Then we cut to in the water that this text crawl is floating over, and there's a woman who's been shot by an arrow floating in the water. And the first spoken words of Cursed are where to begin, with fire or water. This, I understand it's an Arthurian tale, was my mindset at this point, so some generic stuff is to be expected. Let's just move on and enjoy the show. I like made myself think that. I tried to stay optimistic. Shouldn't have even bothered with that. We then cut to a shot of said woman, obviously in prior times. I guess she's telling us with either the water or the fire. I don't know. She never clarified. Please do next time. That's rude. And this drone shot that shows her approaching this village, which we find out is her home, is not very well done. Instead of coming across like one of the great drone shots that like many other shows that use that are very sweeping and are smoothly enough done that it doesn't feel like it's a modern piece of technology. Instead, it gives like this wonderful bird's eye view effect. This just feels like one of those YouTube channels where some guy has a drone that he's sending over a mountain. So work on that, please. But it gets worse as we then cut into close-ups of her riding on her horse, and we see the costume design for this show is not going to be great, and this is reaffirmed with every subsequent character that walks across the screen. We see a child who's like stealing some stuff and being a rapscallion, and then we see her kind of interacting with this kid as he shows her like a drink he stole and takes a swig, blah 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 blah, cute relationship building, except we don't actually get anything out of it really, mainly because I'm so distracted by the fact that everyone's wearing like fresh out of the dry cleaners level clothing. Like this stuff looks immaculate. Small things like this really matter to me. Immersion is important, and the set design's not helping, because as these characters begin to walk around their environment, it becomes very apparent that these people have a limited budget, because they'll walk about 10 feet within the environment they're in and will have limited camera changes, because these are clearly smaller sets that they've built, maybe in a woods, maybe not, but they're trying to make it look like this different, enchanted, kind of beautiful forest, and it just comes across like they really tried hard to make this 10 square feet look good, and the actors can't go beyond it. Nimue, our main protagonist, then goes off a little bit, runs into a deer that's not horrible CGI, I'll give them that, and then the deer starts telepathically telling her like some ominous shit, and she's like, alright, what's going on? But before she can learn it all, the deer's shot by an arrow. And she understandably is like, no, I was learning things. And then a guy walks up and she's like, what'd you do? And he's like, I got dinner. We need to eat. It's medieval times, despite how clean our clothes are. And I want to eat this deer. Very reasonable response. But then they start being very antagonistic with each other. And this is when we find out that she's known for being like a bad witch, even though she's living among witches and wizards. And this peasant guy, is he with them? Is he used to this? It's not clear. He's just angry at her and doesn't like her. And it escalates to the point where she turns his bow into a like vine that's strangling him. So That's intense. And other people, including other witches, come up to stop what she's doing, and then the guy gets away unharmed, screaming like she did it, it's her fault. So what we know about Nimue so far is she's met a child who clearly stole alcohol and lets the child have the alcohol, which, okay, that's fine. And she's not in control of her magical powers. Another king that could be fine. But what follows next, we have this witch who stopped her from strangling the guy, take her aside. Clarification, Pinkberry Daniel here. That witch is also her mother. And their magic too? I don't know. Her magic's evil while her mother's and everyone else's isn't. And they have a bit of a tiff, but again, it just feels very contained in this set where they can't walk very far. Like, one of the great things about early seasons of Game of Thrones is, yes, there were definitely some shots where you could tell they were constrained by what they had built and they're not moving around a whole lot, but they, most of the time, did a very solid job of having these larger, expansive sets that the camera and crew can move around in quite a bit, which gives a lot of life and realism to what's happening. That is entirely absent here as these two argue, and one of my least favorite acting things happens. I call it the tiffed half step, and I've seen a lot of new actors do this, especially when I was doing theater back in like high school, college times. And basically it's when you try to show you're angry and you want to be aggressive, so you do like this like, ah, when you're trying to make a point. You don't actually go, ah, you're using your lines, but it's just to like get closer to the person. It's like, look how angry I am. Hi. Pinkberry Daniel here again to let you know that this really comes down to motivation in acting, and I want to specify that of course people move towards each other's in arguments. That's a thing people do all the time. What I'm specifically saying is in the performance, it feels like unmotivated movement, which is something you learn about in acting where someone's just kind of like doing a thing and it feels out of place. It feels very much so like a performance rather than what the character would actually do. That's what I'm trying to get at. Hope you're having a berrylicious day. But then there's been apparently some important meeting thing happening, so our main protagonist woman and this witch go to a beach, and there's a ceremony where an eclipse happens, so that's important and a big deal, I guess. And during this ceremony, our main protagonist woman is shown to be like the next really important magic user, and all this fire stuff goes around her, and it's like, oh, she's the one. The wizards there are like, no, 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 she's been known to be touched by bad gods, but then the witches are like, how dare you question it? And then instead of like resolving this or giving actual like depth to this possible world building, our main protagonist woman just goes, I'm out! And she's actually going to just leave forever now. That's what she's planning to do. She's like, I'm just gonna run away from home for good. And doing something like that so early just raises so many questions, like, oh, okay, so she doesn't care about anyone here, she's just gonna leave forever and abandon her home because she doesn't want to do this one duty. What is this one duty? We don't really know that well. Do her friends not matter to her? Because she then quickly goes up to a friend. So she's packing her stuff, which I guess in this scene includes throwing like 3 shirts into a bag, and that's really all she grabs. And then getting on a horse, but her friend, who's like, you can't leave, I love you, don't go, you're my friend, is then on the horse with her as they leave. But let's talk about a couple other things they cut away to that are not awesome. We cut to a man who's sitting with a child saying some ominous stuff, just right away. This is the bad guy. He does a little magic thing where like puts a leaf into the kid's hand and the kid's hand like becomes partially leaf. It's odd. But then we pan over and we see there's a slaughter happening right there. But as we pan, suddenly like the sound cue starts of like screaming, murder, steel on steel. Why didn't we hear that before the camera pan? These are the kind of choices that you make that again break immersion, because you would have heard that, and it feels like someone flipped a switch, or even worse, everyone was standing around like, okay, the camera's turning now, and that, you can't, no, this is basic shit, man. This has worked in other movies and shows where the dramatic payoff is like better, but what you see isn't that great, so you're not that drawn into it. And the fact that, by the way, all the bad guys wearing super flowy red cloaks, which just kind of makes it comical, it's like actually watching the guys from the Monty Python Spanish Inquisition run around butcher people. It looks just like that.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition! Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
So yeah, those were our bad guys. They're religious zealots. Okay, blah, 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 that's whatever. The scene transitions are so stylized, it's painful, where we have like this like scrolly, papery text, fire, flame stuff going on. And that's like some CW shit. shit, man. And there's a lot in this show you can call like CW quality crap, including the way a lot of people look. I'm just gonna throw this scene in there because I forget exactly what it happens, but it's not that important and whatever. But we see like the leader or like the main bad of the bad guys, who's not just the old man we just saw talking to the kid, but he's like this hooded murdery figure. And it cuts to him like turning to the camera with glowing red eyes, and you can't see his face because like the hood's down. And he walks towards the camera, and I was like, okay, they're not gonna show his face. We're just gonna see this dark cowl. That's the bad guy as he slow-mo walks towards us with fire all around him. But then he gets close enough that his eyes stop glowing, and you see his face, and he just looks like a CW model actor, and you're like, oh, that's not intimidating. I mean, you're kind of hot. That's it. And then we meet Merlin. Merlin, you deserve better, my man. Merlin, they've decided to change his character to like a drunken and that's a choice. I could see it working. But and the actor's doing his best. He's really trying hard, and I think his performance is actually fine. But the way it comes off with how this show is shot does not blend. And we see these two people who are like sent by the king to collect a debt from Merlin come up to him and like poke him, but Merlin's so drunk that he like not even awake. So then they begin searching him. But they say they're looking for like 400 coins, and they're just hoping to find 400 coins on his whatever. Maybe they're trying to find some amount of the debt. Of course, Merlin wasn't really asleep. He's a trickster, and so he grabs one of them, slams their head down, and he's like, don't try this, or I'll put spells on you. And then, you know, it's an intense situation where they're like clearly like, oh, murder is a possibility here. But then as Merlin starts trying to cast a spell, they try to have this comedic moment where one of the assassins is like, there's no call for that, we'll just go. And they leave, but it's a horrendous misfire of comedy if it is even supposed to be funny. I couldn't tell, and there's a lot in this show I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be funny, because god damn it. Later on though, we do see that Merlin is captured and brought to the king, and he's drunk. So, I don't know, I guess he is fairly capturable, even though he just like threatened these guys with magic, and the second he brought up magic, they were like, no way, dude. But I guess he still can be easily caught, because he's brought to the king, and he's drunk, and the king is like, you promised us rain and the drought's not been broken. And Merlin's like, I'll redouble my efforts. And then the king is like still kind of talking to him, and Merlin just walks the out while he's kind of drunk. And like they kind of resolved the conversation, but not really. But like, you dragged him here. You sent people to find him, and you're just gonna let him walk around the room, eat some of your food, and leave? There's just baffling stuff like that continuously in this show. Merlin's then walking out, and as he's about to take another drink to get even drunker, he notices like a dead bird. He climbs up a random tower that he hears noises in, and he finds a bunch of dead birds in a circle. There's a lot of things with circles in this show. It wasn't paid off in episode 1, so I'm not going to get into it, but just imagine there's been a lot of circles. So cut back to Nemu and her trying to like find this ship that she knows is at this other city so she can get out. She gets there with her friend. They find out the ship actually left early because the winds changed. Schedules don't matter when the winds change, I guess. I don't know. I don't know medieval ship stuff. I'm not actually complaining about that. But yeah, the ship's gone. So her friend is like, oh, you were really going to go. That sucks, but also now you can't. 6 more months till the next ship. You're staying with me. And the set design of this city, I will give credit, is pretty good. I actually like the way this city looked. It had real life to it. The costumes were a bit better. They felt slightly dirtier, but still didn't seem great. And her friend, after this like grand disappointment of like, wow, you're gonna have to stay with us for 6 more months because you apparently are this chosen one and you wanted to leave, but now you're gonna have to be this like chosen person for 6 months. It's odd. It's as odd as it's coming across to be saying it is as odd as it is in the show. But then they just like start going shopping. Because women like shopping, I guess? I don't know. This was so weird to see her be like, oh my god, I'm so sad that I now have to be here for 6 more months. But let's shop. What the f***? They then stumble across this guy singing who clearly has eyes for Nemu. Arthur is, duh. And he asks them to get a drink. And, oh my god. I don't like cliches on this level where she's like, we don't get a drink with strangers. And then he just tells her his name and then asks hers and says, we're not strangers anymore. You know, like how a pedophile would lure a child into a van. Exactly like that. Exactly. And then they agree to get a drink with him. Even though just before this, he put some random dude's hat on her head. This is medieval times, dude. That's gotta be gross. Don't Don't be putting people's hats on people's heads. So they're in a bar now drinking with Arthur, and he's flirting with her while her friend sits there as she's flirted with. But then some knights walk in, because Arthur's clearly like the underling of them, because, you know, young Arthur. And the guy starts being aggressive towards Nimue, and he throws down some dice and is like, we need to do some rolls, Arthur. The dice are loaded, so Arthur's gonna lose. But our sorceress main protagonist, because, you know, magical, remember the bow thing? Callback. She's like, I'll roll with you, and if I win, you give me 10 silver marks. If you win, I'll kiss you. Of course, the guy's like, sure. And she uses her sorcery to make the dice roll a different way. The guy then gets like, best 2 out of 3. And Arthur agrees? Arthur, who like in this intense situation of like, you know, possible sexual assault, is like, best 2 out of 3. Because he's like, oh, these dice were loaded and you made them roll on the not loaded side. Then they say for the best 2 out of 3, they'll up the wager. Either 20 silver marks or she has to have sex with him. Because, you know, sexual assault for bad guys is just always a thing that people are going to use, I guess. Nimue agrees, and her friend, within like rapid succession, just says like, just go ahead and do the dice throw. But then also like is then saying, don't do the sex wager. So she's like, do it. Don't. They roll again, it lands on the non-loaded side, and then the guy accuses her of being a witch, and she makes his chair break, and then they start screaming witch at her. And this is where things really start to fall apart from this show. They were just like, annoyingly not good, but here they go to bad. They are then running from the city as these people scream witch at them, and, you know, they get further and further away from them, but then they bump into some guys wearing red cloaks. That's right, it's the Spanish Inquisition people.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
And they, without missing a beat, start calling them witch, even though these aren't the original people who saw them do magic, and as far as I could tell in this scene, they were far enough away from the other people that they didn't hear them saying witch, so they just got bumped into and immediately were like, f***ing witches, man. Maybe they heard the distant cries, I don't know, it seemed like a leap. And so they are then chasing these women through the market as well. Cut to them riding their horses to get away from these men as the men are like 50 yards behind them. But here's the baffling thing. It then cuts to them in the woods with no sign of these guys behind them, and Nimue says there's no way we can outrun them. You've been gaining ground, clearly. You get off your horse, walk into the woods, and make your horse lie down, which is a process that they show, and then you lie down, and then these guys show up. If they were still just like the 50 yards behind you, you were gaining ground. You could have got, what? And then, even though he wasn't there in the wide shot of the chase happening, Arthur shows up and is like just chilling with them laying down. He just walks up and is like, hey, I'm here now. And the girls are like, cool, let's lay down. Where did you come from? Why? Ah! Also, was your horse laying down this whole time? Because they clearly show this horse needed to lay down, but your horse is just no way to be seen. How did you know they'd stop here? Did you like somehow get here first and go, this is where they'll make their horse lie down. I'll make my horse lie down over there, and then I'll just get ready over... What? Because we then see Arthur has a horse, because he had to have to possibly be in the vicinity of where this went down. Just logically from a writing standpoint, please explain to me what happened here. I'd love to know how Arthur maybe made his horse like Tokyo drift in on its side because he saw what was happening and then skedaddle around to meet them. Tokyo drift horse is the going theory now. Of course, the religious dudes happen to stop here and like look around for a minute, and then one of them shouts like, over there, and just beelines off in another direction. And Arthur and Nimue and her friend they then camp because Arthur's like, I got booze and it's kind of late. You want to party? And they're like, all right. They then flirt while sword fighting, and then Nimue has like a vision, but her vision like occurs, it's intense, and then it cuts to her just like being awake. And her friend was already passed out when this happened, and Arthur and her were kind of sparring. So like, did Arthur just see this chick suddenly have a seizure while he was sparring with her and then just be like, I'll go to bed? Did he not wake up her friend and be like, hey, does she have a medical condition we should discuss? Like, what? Again, writing. You need to fill in these gaps because it leaves me thinking like Arthur just saw her collapse and was like, she's seizing a little bit, but time for me to go to sleep too. Because in the morning, Arthur's sleeping very cozily on his bed, so all right. But during when she's having this vision, we see that Merlin's having a same vision, and Merlin gets up out of his bed and runs over to a desk and like opens it and sees a very fresh crisp painting of a magic sword, which it looks like brand new. It looks like this is not an old ancient book. It's like someone just sat down and did that art, closed it, and then Merlin went up and was like, open it. Hi, Pink Baby Daniel here again. Remember in Rise of Skywalker when they have that dagger that points to the spot to go on the Death Star, even though the Death Star's only been there for like, I don't know, 40 years, and you're like, what? Who made that dagger? That seems like it should be older, but it can't be. It's a similar vibe where it's like this was clearly made within the last couple of years. This looks fresh. I guess your boy Tim down in the library just wrote this stuff about the magic swords a couple years ago, and it happened to be on your desk 2 pages away from being open to the right page. Again, a small immersion thing is like, just make it look a little bit better, please. Then they get home because her running away attempt was foiled by wind, and oh no, the Red Cloak guys are at her home village massacring everybody. And once again, the writing here, actually, all of it kind of comes together in a perfect storm, because the costume designing is all of her people are wearing blue and all of the bad guys are wearing red. So it's this amazing combination of red versus blue as they then go like through this slaughter that's happening. And it's so funny. I'm sorry, it's genuinely funny to watch, like, oh, they color coordinated. That's really nice. Her friend gets taken away. She's desperately scrambling around trying to survive. They try to have some tense moments. One of the evil guys gets dive tackled and shot, I actually quite liked. And eventually she kind of is hunkering down at avoiding being detected. And the evil guy in the hood shows up who had the glowing red eyes. And he's talking to the old guy who was talking to the kid on the bench. And it's like, oh no, bad things are here. Gotta run. But then the little kid at the beginning who stole the booze is just walking around. That's okay. There's actually a few things that are just happening during this slaughter that are baffling. Like, the village is still under attack. There are still people fighting back against these Red Cloak guys, yet they already are burning some of the witches at the stake. So I don't like during the fight. So there is an active fight happening where, you know, people are pushing back against these people coming into their village. And yet they've somehow still taken the time to gather some wood, bring in some crosses, tie some women to them, and lift them up and light them on fire. So I get if you have the superior numbers, maybe you could do some of that. But it just, again, feels like a thing that shouldn't be happening yet. But yeah, there's also this child walking through all of this holding a sword. And so Nemu runs up to him and is like, you got to get out of here. Run like a fox. Get out of here. Tell the king what's happening. Go, 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 go. And he sprints off like a fox. Good. I actually kind of liked that moment where she was like, you have to go. And he seemed to like kind of come out of it and run. That worked. But then she's grabbed by some of the evil guys, brought before the main old dude. And right as she's about to be put on a fire to burn, nick of time savior, arrows start coming in and raining down on the red guys, killing a bunch of them. We don't learn in this episode who that was, but I'm not going to like criticize the show for that. You'll find out in a later episode, I hope, and that'll be nice. Whoever saved them, good job. That's cool. You really good shot and aim for killing the one person who was about to hurt her right as she was about to get hurt for your first arrow. Good timing. Now, the little boy, before he ran off, told her that he saw her mom, who's the head witch, go off into a cave when all of this started. So Nemu runs to that cave and her mom is bleeding out in there. And the mom hands her magical sword. If you know Arthurian legends, yeah. And her mom is like, you have to get this to Merlin. Get it to Merlin. That's the most important thing in the world. Get this sword to Merlin. And she's like, I can't leave you here. We got to go together. And my least favorite scene in this entire show happens at this point, where one of the evil Red Cloaks comes in, even though a lot of his people are being slaughtered out there. I guess he just followed Nemu to this small little cave place. And he's dragging his sword along the ground like he's going to enjoy murdering these women. And the mom is like, get out, go, go. And Mew like, no, I'll stay here and help you. And I'm sitting here like, aren't you both magical witches? Do some shit. We saw you turn a bow into like a sentient snake that attacked a guy earlier. This is just one dude with a whatever. Like, if it's emotionally triggered because the guy was angry at her at the beginning of the show, it should certainly be triggered now. And then there's this experienced witch who we've seen do some stuff. Why? I'm confused. Like, basic setup and payoff, when she did the snake thing to the dude, she was like, I can't control it. And it clearly was meant to be like, oh, when she's emotionally in distress, that's when things happen. But then we also see when she's at the dice thing, she's in control and she's doing like small magical stuff. But now again here, she's just not doing anything. But her mom's like, no, get out of here. And Nemu's like, no, I'm gonna stay and help you. But then instead of running or staying and helping, Nemue just stands to the side as the guy in the red cloak butchers her mom. She didn't do the run, she didn't do the help, she chose option 3, which is stand and watch. No one advocated for that. You advocated for stay and fight, your mom advocated for GTFO, and you decided to just go, I'm gonna do option 3. Worst of both worlds. Not helpful and still in danger. So she runs out as like the guy does a finishing move on her mom, and then we cut to Merlin, who's now experiencing a massive thunderstorm. So I guess he broke the drought that was happening, and he's standing out on his wizard's tower, just gesturing like towards the lightning, like, oh, some things in the storm. And he has a guard with him whose job is terrifying because he's now standing with this insane drunken wizard. And then Merlin does some like weird pushing the guard back. He just kind of pushes him. Push him. It turns out upon rewatching, he was staring at a symbol on the chest of the soldier he was with. So the soldier was just there to act as like a plot thing, so he can then recognize the symbol in the clouds that's occurring there. So it's like a sign from the gods. Yeah. And then goes back to the edge and he's hit by lightning. He kind of lights on fire. He's like, oh my God. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Before he was hit by lightning, it started raining blood. So now it's just raining blood. And it cuts to the king who's celebrating the breaking of the drought. And he takes a bucket of what he thinks is rainwater and starts drinking it. The bucket's just been on his table for a minute or however long. It starts drinking it. And it turns out to be blood. Now I'm confused. Because it seems like, what happened here? Was the bucket filled up by someone at a window who didn't notice it was blood and brought it to the table? Because I have problems with that. Or is the rain that's already fallen suddenly transformed into blood? Which, again, would do all kinds of crazy stuff. Which one was it? Did someone fill up the bucket of blood and then not notice that the bucket's full of blood and all over the sides is covered in blood and bring it in? Or was it the water already in there, so then all of the water that's fallen throughout the kingdom, which would be a huge ecological disaster, just turned into blood? So if someone was drinking the rain, did it turn into blood in their stomach? Is it A positive? Is it B positive blood? Is it O negative? There's so many questions here. But yeah, Merlin's hit by lightning, lights on fire. He's like put out and he's fine, but he's laying on the floor. Cut back to main Nemue, who's sprinting through the woods, like mad sprinting through the woods, and she's being chased by stock wolf sound effects. She gets to a big rock, jumps up on top of the big rock because wolves are a problem here, and the wolves start attacking her. And the CGI for these wolves is bad. Like, I am talking bad. The deer at the beginning looks like a Infinity War level effect compared to these wolves. She pulls out the magic sword, and as she pulls it out, Merlin, who's like slipped out of his wizard's robes, he's like naked, but you see like some wizard ass there. He starts having a burning visage of the sword all down his body as she pulls it out and then starts killing the wolves with it. Pretty intense. I'll give it the show this. That was pretty intense. During the fight with the wolves, she accidentally cuts into the stone and pulls it out. I took that as like a small, actual kind of like, haha, sword in the stone moment. I liked that. But I'm also not 100% sure that's what they were going for, because it was also just like a small gash in the stone. So maybe it was just like, oh, she got stuck in the stone. I don't know. Now for this next part of the video, I need to call out another YouTuber, because I'm aware Shad over at Shadversity has been dropping some harsh opinions about the Wheel of Time. And okay, Shad, I'll call out your opinions and why they're wrong soon enough. But also, if I'm gonna do that, I need you to look into the sword forms that are used in this final confrontation between this woman and wolves, because the way she waves around this sword, I need someone who knows swords to look into this, because I've talked to people I know who do like stage combat, and they are mystified by her swinging of this magical sword. Then as she just starts butchering the remaining wolves, the blood from the wolves starts flicking onto the camera, and in the most annoying transition yet, that is how the credits begin to roll. I shit you not. It's like blood that overtakes the camera, and then credits overtake it. What? This is stuff like a high schooler who's editing a project would choose. Not in like Netflix quality Oh, why are they doing Arthurian Legends Riverdale edition? It really comes across like that. Oh, I didn't like this, but I'll add a few more praises here. Especially in Merlin's Tower, there were some genuinely awesome shots. There were some good VFX here and there, and the acting was not bad across the board. People did the best with what they were given repeatedly. All those nuggets of good, though, were drastically overwhelmed by mediocrity consistently, and I am giving episode 1 of Cursed on Netflix a 2.5 out of 10. I will not be continuing it, and this was a train wreck. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here, and have a good one, y'all. Peace! And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreon, McKay Giller. I hope you're doing well, McKay. I like the jacket in your photo. Very stylish.